Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is when you're listening to this podcast. This is Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. It's MotoAmerica's weekly motorcycle racing podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by Sean Bice. Sean, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great here in Central Ohio, loving life as always.
Well, listen to you, Mr. Positive.
I'm just insane, that's all.
As you know, it was kind of cool yesterday. I went to Las Vegas for the day, which I've never flown into Vegas in the morning and flown back in the afternoon, but I think that's the best way to do Las Vegas, to be honest. But yeah, it was a big day for us. And as we announced yesterday, we got a series sponsor for MotoAmerica for the 2022 and 23 seasons. So it's all good. It's an auto parts company, online company called Auto Parts for Less. And they're actually based in Las Vegas. So they had a nice display at the SEMA show, which is, I guess, the largest automobile show in the world, perhaps, at least in the United States. I mean, I couldn't believe the size of this show. We've all been to motorcycle shows, and in good years they've had, very good participation, but the industry is just, I mean, it's nothing like this. I was completely 100% blown away by the size of the, like Ford, for example, their display was just like, it was just mind blowing, with all the cars and trucks, and they were doing demo drives with obviously their new Bronco, and so many people. But it was nice. We were able to set up in their display and do the unveiling, and had the owner of the company talk about, why he wanted to be involved with MotoAmerica, et cetera. And the same from our side. And it was also nice. I got to see Travis Wyman. He came by and helped a little bit with the introduction, because he, as you know, he lives right there in Vegas. And it looks like he's going to have the Wyman brothers look like they're probably going to have a little bit of a personal sponsorship contract with Auto Parts for Less. So that'll be cool for them.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, but it was all in all, it was a really nice day. And it was, as anybody who knows our series, this is actually the first time we've had a series title sponsor. Yep. So it'll be good. It'll, they'll activate. I think they'll do a good job, and it'll just make people more aware of MotoAmerica, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. So Paul, did Travis end up taking you to the airport?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did he tell you I texted him?
Yeah, he showed me the text. So yeah, he got me to the airport, and it went really well. I mean, there's nothing better than going to an airport when all you have is your backpack and you don't have to deal with baggage or anything. Just run in and jump in and get out of there. So yeah, it worked out really good, and it was nice to spend some time with Travis, and yeah, he's always a good guy. So it was in his hometown, so it worked out perfect.
He gets to drive a lot of crazy cars. What was he driving? Anything exotic at all?
No, he just got a fairly new truck, or he got a new truck recently. So he had that, but yeah, he does drives out there. They have like a skid pad, and Ford does I think it's Ford or his school actually, but they use Fords. They did demos and stuff like, sliding all around and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of crazy. So that he's involved in that. I think he's got to work the rest of this week doing that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I just couldn't believe the amount of people, and it's a big deal. So it was nice to be able to do something there. And again, it put MotoAmerica in front of a lot of new people. So
yeah, that's cool.
Very cool. So today we've got a guest, as always, or as mostly always. And our guest today is Kaleb De Keyrel, and he's our 2021 MotoAmerica Twins Cup champion. He won 5 races and had 10 total podiums, and ended up winning the championship by 68 points. His season started great. He won the first race at Road Atlanta. Then it flipped completely the opposite way when he was involved in that big crash in race 2 that I'm sure you remember, Sean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think, and we can talk about this to him when we bring him in a second, but he finished second in that championship to Rocco Landers in 2019.
Yep.
And I mean, without a doubt, he went into this season as the favorite to win that title. But he did have a new motorcycle, etc. So I think it'll be interesting to talk to him about that because, well, let's bring him in. Kaleb, how are you this morning?
Good. I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no worries. Talking about that we'll jump back a little bit to that season where you finished second to Rocco. We figured you come in as the favorite to win the championship. Did you feel that same way? And did you start the season with a little bit of pressure?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, my goal as a racer is I always want to win. So I mean, obviously I was training hard, getting prepared for in the off season this past year, just like I am now for next year. But I knew my goal was to win races. I kind of proved to myself the year before that I could do that. I think I was the only one to beat Rocco last year. I got 3 wins last year. I knew I could, be up front and win races. I knew, going into the start of this season, obviously I was on a brand new bike, the Aprilia RS 660. It had just came out right before. I mean, literally, we barely had the bikes together for Road Atlanta, and there wasn't even. I think there was like a couple other people that got their bikes together, but it was a tall order just to be at that race for one, and there was a lot of pressure on myself because I knew how well I did in the championship the year before, and I knew what I wanted to do. But with the unknown of a brand new motorcycle, it's not developed. I didn't know what that was going to look like. So kind of went into Road Atlanta with an open mind and just, basically was just like, just do the best you can and whatever happens, happens. That was kind of my outlook going in, just because there was kind of a lot of unknowns with the new bike. And obviously I knew what I could do. And I thought that, I was in better shape and possibly a little bit better rider just from all the training I did in the off season. So, but yeah, still a huge unknown going into Road Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Kaleb, it's amazing because it's pretty rare for a guy who's kind of the odds-on favorite to win the championship the next year to completely switch motorcycles up. And we all looked at that new Aprilia RS 660 and saw on paper it looked pretty amazing, but it's still a leap of faith for you. And one of the things I don't know, and can you tell us about how you got started with Robem Engineering and the Aprilia? How did you make that transition? Who approached who, and how did it start?
Basically I was working with Carl Price. He's actually raced last year and he did a couple races this year. Good friends with him. He's a great guy. And I had been kind of talking to him and he was like, hey, we're doing this thing next year with Robem Engineering. He was actually kind of working with Robem last year when they were riding the Suzukis. So Carl's really the whole reason how I kind of got connected with the Robem Engineering group. And the major benefit to going with Robem Engineering would be the fact that last season, me and my girlfriend traveled around in a van all year, and I had one mechanic. So like the real major benefit for me going to Robem was, the fact that they had a team of, 4 or 5 guys. They had the bikes there. And I just had to get myself there with my, helmet and leathers and go out and do what I know how to do. So that was the real major benefit. Obviously there's, still the huge unknown of like this new bike and, everybody's talking about it and hyping it up and stuff. But at the end of the day, Road Atlanta would be the telltale sign of how the year was possibly going to go. So
I mentioned it in the intro, but the season started at Road Atlanta, obviously, and you won that first race and were on top of the world there for about a day. And then the next race, all hell broke loose on the Sunday. And I think most people have seen the video with, multiple bikes going down and, it was a mess. And fortunately, everybody got out of there without being injured. But have you ever had a weekend that had such difference in emotion? And I mean, going from one race to the next?
No, and I mean, I had never. I mean, just the situation itself was pretty crazy. Saturday, I think it was Saturday, the race Saturday. I had won the first ever time. I had the first ever time I swung my leg over that Aprilia RS 660 was practice one at Road Atlanta. So to go out and win the first race was obviously super confidence inspiring for me, and then like everybody's all positive about how the year's gonna go, and then the very next day, I'm battling for the win, and all of a sudden I get high sided to the moon, and then everything's kind of like, wait a minute, are we okay here, or what's gonna happen next? So yeah, it was a super scary moment for me, honestly, because obviously I had just won the race the day before, and then had a huge crash the next day. And then there's the whole rest of the season after this. So for me, I was pretty nervous on what was going to happen, how things were going to unfold. So.
Kaleb, I remember getting in touch with you, and we try to do this a lot of times with our riders that crash when we're not really sure, but it looks like they're sort of okay. And because we want to, if we run footage of these crashes, we don't want to do anything that, if it was something more serious, we're not trying to exploit that or make fun of it in any way. So we thought it looked like you were pretty much okay, but I remember I ended up calling you, and you were home at that point, but you were lying in bed, I remember. And yeah. I got all scared thinking because you had broken your femur before that maybe something happened with that. But talk about the outcome of that. I mean, you're essentially bruised from head to toe, weren't you?
I mean, quite honestly, I got out of it extremely well. Till this day, watching the video, I don't know how that's possible. If you watch the video, like in like full speed, it's pretty insane how fast I like high-sided through the air and slammed down and hit the ground. And the real danger there, honestly, I mean, escaping the high side was one thing, but then Toby's bike coming flying in at me, and when I was standing in the gravel trap there, that honestly could have been the worst part of that whole deal if Toby's bike would have hit me, but it didn't. I jumped out of the way, so we're all good. But yeah, I mean, honestly, watching the video, I'm still kind of amazed at how I didn't get hurt.
Yeah, and Kaleb, I mean, there's so many aspects to that crash. We've seen it a bunch of times, and since we've done social media on it, I've studied it a bunch when I've been working on captions or whatever. But there's so many parts of it. Obviously, that part at the end when there's kind of chaos, and you think it's over, and then it's not over. It was almost like an episode of Halloween or something. There comes the scary person shows his ugly head again at the end when you think it's all over. But the worst part of that for me is that initial high side. You are flying through the air, and I don't know how in the heck you kind of tucked your head, and I don't know if it was aerodynamics or whatever, but you managed to get yourself flipped over, and I don't think you even hit your head at all, did you?
No, the helmet doesn't even have one scratch on it. So.
Absolutely incredible. Did you have the foresight? Did you know? Okay, I gotta flip myself over, or what? Was it just momentum?
A little bit was momentum, and then I knew that I didn't want to hit the ground head first, so I kind of tucked my head, and luckily momentum just kind of carried me into pretty much like a perfect full front flip, and then I was able to just kind of like glance off the ground. My hip hit the ground first, and then I just kind of ricocheted, and kept sliding. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm, a super talented acrobat or anything like that. So, but we'll just go with I got lucky.
All right.
When I look back at that championship, you obviously started strong, then you had the DNF, and then you really started to turn it on there. I guess it would be Road America. And you went on this streak where you're like first, second, third, first, second. And at that point in time, you're looking pretty solid, right? I mean, you're thinking this thing's mine to lose. And then all of a sudden there was like a momentum shift a little bit, Anthony Mazziato came in and started to win some races and got some second places. And so the heat a little bit turned up. And then all of a sudden at the end there, that competition kind of like just faded away. And next thing you know, you win the championship by 68 points. Is that kind of how this thing went?
Yeah, I mean, Mazziato came in, Road America, I started to feel like myself on the bike for sure. I won that race by over 8 seconds. And at this point in time, Mazziato wasn't there yet. And then I think it was like Laguna Seca after that, and being able to beat Mazziato at Laguna Seca was he was kind of the new guy that kind of had a lot of hype, that he was going to win and stuff like that. So I really wanted to, show that no matter who comes into the class that I can, still win. And I think I did that. So being able to win at Laguna with Mazziato being there, that was huge. And then getting the win at Brainerd after that in front of my hometown crowd, passing Mazziato like literally in the last corner. That was super cool, and that helped my confidence as well. And then at that point, I kind of knew like, okay, Mazziato's not really, a part of the championship because he came in so late. So then I was kind of like, all right, well, Brainerd race 2. I'm like, well, it's 25 points to win, 20 to get second, or 0 to crash. So do I really want to risk the, that 5 points versus, over crashing? So I kind of I played it safe a little bit, but I also knew that like, in this sport, I mean, you can't play it too safe. And honestly, for me, like if my team's like, go be calm, or be careful, like I think that makes it like even worse, honestly. Because then you slow down, you start making mistakes. Like when I'm in the zone and I'm like super focused on what I'm doing and hitting my marks like that, I think that's where I always try to stay. Just for me, I think that's, obviously you're at that limit, but at the same time, like I feel like if I slow down or do anything different, then you start making mistakes because you're not 100% focused or totally in it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it was really confidence inspiring for me, to get those couple wins, middle of the season. And then, it kind of backpedaled a little bit at Pittsburgh. I had a shifting malfunction or something happened with the bike. So I ended up running off and hitting some sort of false neutral, and then, got back on the track and didn't do very well. So then, this sport is all about these highs and lows. So, you can never be too high for too long, and it'll bring you right back down. So, but yeah, so Pittsburgh didn't go so hot. And then, I knew towards the middle of the season that I really needed to put the hammer down and start getting some wins, because otherwise, I think Jackson Blackman had come back in at some point too. And, he did really well at the Ridge and got a bunch of points. So it was kind of a weird season, honestly, because, the guys that I started the year with and the guys that we finished the year with, I mean, they kept bringing in more people on me.
Right. I was gonna say that, Caleb. I'm not trying to say this is how or why you won the championship, but the end of that season was so different. You had mentioned Anthony Mazziato, but of course, then you had, Corey Ventura comes in, wins a race, and your teammate for a couple of rounds there at the end, Tommaso Marcan, he won a race. And it's kind of like these sort of wild card almost riders. It's like, more power to them if they want to do that. But to your point, just stay up there and don't crash and stay where you're at, and it's going to help you, obviously. But that was a strange way to end that season for you, I would have thought. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, as far as like my point of view too, like I'm leading the championship, and then that Jackson Blackman came in, he started getting close in points. And then you had Corey Ventura come in, and then my own team brought in Tommaso. I'm like, really? So No, Tommaso's a great guy. I don't mean that, Tommaso. But anyways, at the time, I'm leading the championship, and Tommaso's super fast. He's raced Moto2. He's got a lot of credentials. So for me, I was like, after so they brought Mazziato in, Blackman in, Corey Ventura, then Tommaso. So really, really, honestly, a weird season because like last year, it was just me and Rocco battling it out the whole time. Nobody or that I remember really came in, or everybody was pretty much there the whole time that did the series. So yeah, interesting season for sure. I definitely wasn't expecting, all these new guys to keep popping up, and obviously a lot of them, are super competitive, and I think it's going to make for great racing next year. And the Twins Cup is, obviously always a class to watch. It's got a lot of action and close racing, and there's going to be, a lot of fast guys involved. So it'll be a cool class next year for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, not so much for you, but absolutely for us, we were pretty delighted about the fact that there was a fair amount of parity. I mean, in the beginning, like I said, when we all looked at that Aprilia on paper and thought it was going to be the Overlord, and Matt Spicer didn't necessarily think that. Teague didn't really either. And I think in your team, you knew, it was a great bike, but you definitely had to work for it. And as it turned out, I mean, the Yamaha won, the Suzuki won. So there was a fair amount of parity, although obviously you got enough wins in the points and stayed in the podium positions to wrap it up pretty soundly. What, 68 points, I think was your margin there. So you had a great year.
I think there was like 8 different winners, something like that. I kind of recall 7 or 8 different guys won races, which is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
Honestly, yeah. MotoAmerica did a really good job of leveling out the bikes. I think the Yamaha, the Aprilia, and the Suzuki are all really competitive. So, I think they did a great job, because coming into the year, I know the Aprilia came out super late in the season and they were trying to figure it out. And I honestly, I really think all the brands are competitive, and I think that's how MotoAmerica wants it. So that way it's, good racing, and there's different brands in the mix. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think all the bikes are super competitive. So,
we talked about this thing with Tommaso Marcan and the relationship that Robem Engineering had and has with Aprilia. But you're funny how you kind of said, "Oh, come on, you're bringing this guy in," and I know you're kidding, and we were delighted to have him there too. But at the same time, it's like it is competition, so that had to be a little weird, right? Were you kind of saying what did you know at any with any amount of advance notice that they were going to have this other guy as part of the team? I guess.
No, honestly, I had no idea. So it was a surprise to me, as it was to everybody else. And they brought in Max too. I didn't bring up Max Toff, but he was really competitive at New Jersey. And that's where I was possibly had the chance to wrap up the championship. So they brought in Max and Tommaso.
Right.
So for me, I think it was just, honestly, it was just for me to have all these new guys come in. Like, I really wanted to show that I could still be the guy, no matter who came in. I felt I could still win. So that was kind of my goal, I guess, or my look at it. So when they just kept when people just kept showing up, I guess I was like, well, I'm just gotta, go as fast as I can and show that I can still be the guy. Hopefully, from my point of view. But yeah, and then Max and me battled out in race 1, right to the end, and I was still able to get the championship. So yeah, it was definitely a crazy season, that's for sure. So
well, crazy season, Caleb, but let me kind of continue it. Crazy after season 2. Now let's get into this a little bit. So you win the championship. It's celebrations all around for the team and you, and it was an awesome championship for you. And for I guess it was a little bit of a thank you for the championship. You're going to go over to Italy, to Vallelunga, and compete in the Trofeo Cup. And you went with your girlfriend and sidekick Marissa, and Well, all hell broke loose, I guess. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this was my first ever experience racing in Europe. I was super excited to get the opportunity. I've been over to Europe before, but I've never been able to do any racing over there. So this is going to be kind of like my first time getting my feet wet over there and kind of seeing how things were and how the racing was. And Yeah, so we went to Vallelunga was the track. It was the last round of the Trofeo Cup, which is a series that races with the CIV over in Italy. They have basically it's all Aprilias, so it's kind of like the KTM Cup used to be here, but over there everybody rides the exact same bike. The Aprilia brings the bikes, and actually BK Course brings the bikes and has them all set up. And everybody's is exactly the same. That way, it's equal or whatever you want to call it. So everybody's on the same tires, same bike. So really cool experience for me. Unfortunately, it got off to kind of a rough start. Me and my girlfriend went and toured Rome, and my mechanic also came with us, and we went and picked my mechanic up from the airport, and he really wanted to see Rome, and me and Marissa had just toured Rome the day before. So we literally went and parked in the exact same spot, went and did the exact same tour we just did the day before, just to show my mechanic. And quick, we were trying to do it quick because we had to get to the track to get set up and get ready to go for the next day for practice. And yeah, we get back to our rental car. The back window is smashed out, and all our luggage is gone. They took literally everything, my whole gear bag, all our backpacks, suitcase, and the only thing they left in there was one of my helmets. So apparently that wasn't of any value to them or something.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty rough because me and Marissa, we basically had like everything that we own in the car. So all our clothes and laptops and iPads and, all my gear, so yeah, it was pretty devastating, honestly, to get back to the car and have all your stuff stolen. Obviously I don't make a whole lot of money doing this. So it was pretty brutal for me because I was like, well, what do I do now? I'm here in Italy. I don't have any gear to race. So it was like, it's kind of a crappy way to start the trip. But so we ended up going to the track, and well, I guess first off, the window busted out of the rental car. Kind of sucked because it was freezing cold, and everywhere we were driving, the window was broken out. So it was freezing cold, and we couldn't get a new rental car because we didn't have any time because, I was racing and we were getting up early, going back late and all this stuff, and didn't have time to switch out the rental car and go all the way back to the airport. So we got to the track. I was talking to Tommaso and Max, two super nice guys, awesome guys. They both came over when Tommaso came and raced here in the States. And I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to race. Like, I don't have any gear or anything. And Tommaso was like, hey, I've got a backup suit and boots that you can wear. And I had a helmet, and he gave me the gloves and pretty much everything, that I needed to race, other than I had my one helmet. So yeah, without Tommaso, I wouldn't even have been even able to go on the track. So that was super nice of him to borrow me, basically all of his gear. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience as far as like how it all started. That kind of set the trip off on, everybody was kind of bummed out because obviously they just lost all their stuff, like Marissa, my mechanic. So, but we just kind of kept making steps forward, and I ended up having to miss a session because the U.S. Embassy, they stole our passports. So if we wanted to get home on Monday, which is when our flight was, the U.S. Embassy was only open. Basically, we could only go Thursday or Friday. So We went Friday morning. I missed a session Friday morning because we had to go to the U.S. Embassy and get temporary passports so we could get home. And then, practice in the afternoon. I was actually really liking the track. The track was super fun. The tires were really, really good. The bike felt awesome. They did a really good job. The BK Course group over there does a really good job preparing everything. And it was a really good experience at the track. Everything outside of the track was just super hectic. One night I got back to my room and we had a little miscommunication. They handed me the keys for the room, which were little keys. And the door was like this big key, this big golden key to get in the door of where we were staying. And he didn't tell me that he put it on the bed. So I thought I had the keys and I didn't. And we got back to the room at like 10:30. And the maids had shut our door and the key was locked inside the room.
Oh boy.
So we were up till like midnight that night trying to get back into our room so we could go to bed. So yeah, it was just like it just seemed like one thing after another, you know. And I had kind of heard, you know, I know people who have gone over to Europe, American racers that have gone over to Europe, and I mean, honestly, I felt right at home at the track, but everywhere else, it was like, you know, just one thing after another was going wrong. So it kind of felt like everything was against me a little bit, but at the end of the day, I just kept pushing through, and you know, I just tried to keep going faster and faster every session. The track was actually super fun. It had a lot of fast sections and then a tight section to where, you know, you could make up time on guys and stuff. And I was having a lot of fun riding. And then in the race, I got a really good start. I qualified 9th, so that wasn't very good. I got a really good start in the race. Made my way up to 2nd on the first lap. I was in 2nd place by like the 3rd corner. So that was pretty sweet. I got a great jump, was, you know, past a bunch of guys, and I was right behind Max Toth, my teammate for the last couple of rounds, and I didn't want him to break away because I knew that if he broke away on the first couple laps, he would break the draft, and then I would have all these people trying to draft me, and he would be kind of, you know, out in clean air. So I was pushing to make sure that he didn't have a big enough gap to break the slipstream on the front straightaway, and I ended up kind of having this super weird crash where the rear tire slid. And I think it was kind of one of those things where I didn't really know. I don't have a lot of experience on the Pirelli tires. Not trying to make excuses here, but the rear was very predictable when it was sliding. So like I was getting on the gas and it was sliding, but then I just kept going, and then it caught and then whipped me to the inside and slapped me down to the inside. So I wasn't really expecting it because I had never really felt that before from the tires. So yeah, I crashed out of 2nd in the race, and that kind of put the icing on the cake for my Italian adventure. But yeah, no, it was a really good experience, other than obviously how the race went and getting all our stuff stolen. So I'm super grateful to Aprilia and everybody who put that together for me. You know, it's truly a weekend I'll never forget. It was super special. They did a American flag paint job on the bike, and it was a super special weekend. It just started out in a kind of a bad way and then kind of ended in a bad way. But being at the track and seeing their series and stuff like that was all a really cool experience, and I'm super glad I was able to do it. So.
Well, I'm glad you recounted that for us, because, you know, on social media, I was able to kind of determine some of the stuff off the track that had happened to you, and that was terrible. But, you know, I was also trying to follow the race a little bit and did a report on it. but I didn't really know what happened with you. Certainly didn't know about the Friday morning thing and wondered why you weren't in that session. And then, Max had a pretty unbelievable trophy cup. And I didn't know you were right up there with him because I could only tell by results and stuff. And I was going to get in touch with you, but I knew we were going to have you on the podcast to talk about it. So I'm glad you told us that whole thing, but what a crazy adventure. And the other thing I want to say, Kaleb, is it's interesting. I've always felt that you're kind of a prototype motorcycle road racer size. And Tommaso's the same way. And it's kind of interesting. I think you guys are close to being the same size. You must be if you're able to wear his stuff. But that's kind of good that you guys both can do that, because certainly, if it was Jake Lewis or even Max Toth is super tall, you couldn't wear his stuff either, right?
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. Me and Tommaso are both, I'm 5'8", he's probably 5'10", and we're both 150 pounds or 100 whatever. So, pretty standard motorcycle racer size, I guess. Obviously, there's Jake Lewis and them are tall, and Max, but yeah, I mean, I got lucky that Tommaso and me are really similar in size. His suit actually fit really good. So I mean, I got super lucky that me and him are similar size, and that he let me borrow the gear. So Tommaso's a great guy.
He really is.
Super cool to meet him, and we both got YouTube channels. So if any of the listeners want to go check us out on YouTube, my Italian adventure video, what we've salvaged from our iPhones, is going to be dropping here pretty soon. And Tommaso's always putting stuff out. His stuff's in Italian, but hopefully he'll add some English subtitles here soon, so the Americans can keep up with what he's doing. But super cool guy, and super thankful that he let me borrow his gear. That was super nice of him to like I said, without him giving me the gear, I realistically racing was pretty much out of the question. So
one of the things I really have been late in giving you kudos for, Kaleb, besides your talent on a racetrack, is not only your ability to stay in the game and race, but also the fact that you have a real good sense of the importance of social media. You mentioned your YouTube channel, and you also have a really good sense of design. I know that you do your own helmets and stuff, and you can see it in how stylish you are. You're kind of a little bit Valentino Rossi like in a lot of ways with what you do with your bikes and the usage of the yellow and all that kind of stuff. And it really puts on a good show, and it adds to what we do. So I've always wanted to mention that to you, that it's a great thing that you've got. That's both sides of your brain working, so to speak. You're very creative, but also pretty analytical from being a racer. So it's a cool thing about you as a personality.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rossi obviously is an amazing racer, and him retiring, he was obviously a huge inspiration for me growing up. I always liked the fact that he was super smart in I guess a marketing aspect of it.
Yes.
Because the neon yellow is obviously super catchy, and people like it and see it, and it's bright, and I guess I actually worked for a graphic design company for a while when I wasn't racing MotoAmerica for a couple of years, and the whole reason why I even got into graphic design was because I like to design my my helmets and suits and bikes and stuff like that when for racing. So that's kind of how I got started into that stuff. And it's cool because, I think having a good image and at the track and being able to promote yourself in that way is kind of like, having a little bit of an advantage marketing wise. So when you're looking for sponsors and stuff like that, obviously if you're visible and have a good following, I think that's super important too. So I'm trying. Obviously, I'm not Valentino Rossi, but but yeah, I think it's super important to be kind of savvy in that way as well, in that aspect. So
yeah, for sure, and it's a lesson that some of the other riders can learn too. Hey, so we're gonna get ready to wrap up here, but I did want to mention, talk about one of your good friends. You mentioned you down in Houston, you live in the Woodlands and not far from your good friend Garrett Gerloff, who I talked to earlier this week for a little bit. I think he may be here in the States now, but he's getting ready to go over to Indonesia. And Caleb, you'll identify with this. One of the things about Garrett is he doesn't really like to talk too much about what may happen or could happen. But I was talking to him about, hey man, you're gonna wrap up the independent rider championship, and he goes, well, I got to get through this round. It's so funny how he never wants to talk about that stuff, but I'm sure you're as excited as the rest of us about this final round for the season, and especially what he's gone through this season. And he really has acquitted himself well during the year. And I mean, we felt like, man, if he can get this independent thing wrapped up, that's a tremendous accomplishment for him, especially with what he went through. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, for sure. No, I wish nothing for the best for him, and I hope the last round goes well. It's definitely been a crazy season for him as well, and I just really hope he does well for America, and he's a great representative for our country being over there, and obviously he's super fast and talented. So yeah, I hope he can wrap up the independent championship. And like I said, he's just a great representative for us Americans to have over in Europe. And he inspired me a lot when we were training here. Obviously, I don't get to really train with him anymore. He's over in Europe pretty much full time. But I learned a lot from him when we were training, and I still use a lot of the stuff that I've learned from him now till this day. So yeah, I really hope he can get it done for America. That'll be awesome.
Yep.
All right, we'll let you go here in a second, but we can't go without talking to you a little bit about next year. We're picturing you being able to talk Marissa into getting back in the van and doing another season, and we hope that's the case. Do you know what you're doing yet? Are you going to stick with the same team, or do you not even know yet?
Honestly, everything's so up in the air right now. I'm really just focused on training. It's still super early in the off season. There's talk about lots of different scenarios that could happen, but at the moment, nothing's really concrete. And it's for a rider, this is such a interesting time of the year,
right?
Because there's like this unknown of like what you're going to be doing next year, what you're going to be racing, but yet all at the same time, time's passing. So, you need to still be training, being as, ready and prepared as possible for whatever is going to come. So yeah, I mean, I don't, at this moment, I don't know what's going to come. All I know is that I'm super fired up and ready to win more races and hopefully win another championship. So I'm just trying to put myself in the best position to achieve that for next season.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a big part of our business, but it's got to be difficult for riders. And I think, probably 90% of the people in the paddock, if we talk to the riders today, with the exception of somebody like Jake Gagne, they're year to year and things are kind of up in the air until the last minute. So it's got to be tough on guys like you, but it all seems to come together obviously before that first race. So we wish you a good rest of the off season and stay safe with the training. And we will talk to you again soon and let people know when you know what you're going to be up to. So again, thanks for joining us today. It's always good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, Caleb.
All right, guys. Thank you.